Yes, because again, this is going from our particular perspective, where if you were to see our particular planet from fifth density, it would appear very much like a star to you. That's the idea. That you're literally moving up the dimensions. That the stars that are coherent with the third density in that sense are birthed within certain parameters in that sense, are often engineered in that degree. But it's still one particular spectrum that's coming through. So the whole idea to where the nebula itself births the star, those stars are then, shall we say, relocated based upon, shall we say, beings that are genetic engineers. This refers to that of which you would know as the Elohim, the Anunnaki, etc. That they are literally engineering star systems. That many of these stars have literally been, shall we say, brought forward from different forms of, shall we say, nebula nurseries in that regard, to where a particular star system is established. So again, that's the whole idea. And in your particular spectrum right now in third density, you are aware of your sun. You are aware of your 9 planets in that particular regard. You are aware of other particular star systems where other planets are starting to be discovered orbiting other stars. So again, this is what's present within your spectrum. But as you move into the fourth density spectrum, the fifth density spectrum, etc., you will notice that there is an increase in the bandwidth relating to how you view your universe. There will be stars that will literally appear that you feel, my goodness, where did these come from? They were not available on your current bandwidth spectrum. And now they are appearing more and more as you move towards, shall we say, the grand scale of the shift, to be aware of stars that you never knew were there before.
Much to discover, I know, in that sense. And the beauty of it is that, of course, in the now is everything, and to stay in the now,
yes.
be in the now, you will experience the beauty. Yes.
Yes. And as you, in that sense, discover your own continuity of what's going on, you see it very, very similar to lights in the dark. That there are particular spotlights being turned on into a very pitch black room that is beginning to show more to you. And as you advance and as you shift and move into these higher degrees of consciousness, more of those lights will transform for more to be revealed. The spotlights in the dark.
Do I have, I don't know, maybe future me, Elohim, Anunnakis? Do I have a life there, maybe past or future?
Well, the whole idea...
Other beings than, not the 12th planet, not the beings they came for God, but the beings, you can say, there are 5th density beings or 6th density beings.
Well, the
related beings.
As they exist simultaneously in which you would know as the past and the future, you literally have had connections with such beings, yes. You have in that sense had connections as such beings. There are memories in that sense that are looking to come through you right now that literally show, shall we say, particular recall states relating to that of which you would know as you associating, assisting in the engineering of worlds. Not particular memories per se, but more, shall we say, mindful recall, mindful perspectives coming through. As memory itself truly is an illusion.
I understand. This is very magnificent information because I recognize you have just opened it, the whole story.
The whole idea is that all you really have to do is just tap into that particular mindful recall that's attempting to come through, imagining this particular world that is literally being birthed, to where there is asteroid bombardment upon its surface, which is necessary for, we would liken it to the body receiving its essential nutrients, chemicals in that particular effect. To that in the idea is the starting, the beginning of a particular world, so that all particular forms of, shall we say, chemical, biological, nutrition, sustenance in that requirement is delivered in regards to the embodiment of the planet itself. Very, very similar to how the human baby, in that sense, emerges from the embryo. The planetary baby, shall we say, emerges from the embryo in regards to its point of stasis, to where it is receiving genetic information bombarded by what you would know as asteroid or meteorite collision. So in that sense, imagining a world in this particular function helps you to understand, to recall particular actions that you have done associated with the Elohim, the Anunnaki, etc., whichever you wish to call them, to in that sense remember aspects to where you were allowing yourself, associated with other team members, shall we say, to see the birthing of such worlds. Because you've all come from somewhere else, so to speak.
Yes, I understand. It's all now here, but I understand what you mean in the sense of.
In what you would understand linear time progression, yes.
Yes, like I understand exactly.
Is this Elohim where I am part of my oversoul, and always will be a perspective which I can create planets? You can say construct star systems and help in evolving and balancing it.
Well, understand that as what you would consider to be in your own perspective, in that understanding as a distant future possibility. But the understanding is that yes, you do have connections with the original seeders. Now again, you can refer to them as what you wish. Many in that sense may refer to them as the Elohim or the Anunnaki or anything else of that nature. The seeders, the planners, yes, shall we say. Whatever you wish to call them is fine. The whole idea is that yes, you have in that sense associated yourself in regards to the development of all worlds. The whole idea is that those who are part of the Earth experiment, shall we say, have had grand connections in regards to its creational process. That's the whole point. That's why all of you are here. You're all part of what you have, shall we say, collectively created. Okay?
Yes.
So that represents your connection in regards to that state. But as we said, everything exists now. There's nothing that you aren't in that sense.
The first question that came up to me when I heard this entire story of Eden and the Lyre and this constellation, I felt, you can say, am I involved in the destruction of this beautiful planet? Me as not me, this me, but you can say me.
Well, understand that there are other perspectives that relate to your energies in that sense. That, shall we say, both represented the construction and destruction, representing that of the first Eden. So understand that you are talking about a plethora of lifetimes here. It's not just one particular. So the whole idea in regards to that span represented times that are in that sense constructive, relating to society. There were also other particular times, experiences that related to destruction, based on disagreement, based on miscommunication, based on polarized thinking. And this in that sense created the duality between Eden itself. Now understand that there are many different sub-races that emerged during that time. That there was what you would consider to be the original planet, the planet that we have termed as Eden. And that Eden itself was home to many different sub-races. The original race in that sense being that of which you would consider to be human, to which developed sub-races such as feline, mammaloid, bird tribes, etc. And again, it truly expanded in all the ways creation had of expressing itself through that of the founders. That other worlds became seeded, that other planets in that sense became colonized by other sub-races, and again, everything truly represented a growth, much like how a garden bed itself sprouts seeds and allows these plants to bloom. That the entire bed itself, through duration, will be filled with life. Same thing with many of your stars. That there was a bloom period, shall we say, that represented the idea of other worlds being seeded with other sub-races of humans.
Yes.
Now, many of these particular sub-races simply based themselves in regards to polarity and not observational alignment. They were not truly neutral as to what the humans are starting to understand now. In fact, you are one of the very first few humans in that sense that are still understanding the nature much more prominently relating to observation, to neutrality. There are still many different races that exist within the galaxy themselves that are still functioning through polarized understandings. There are those in that sense who have reached a state of observation that have, in that sense, brought themselves into higher degrees of understanding, of enlightenment. And there are still those going through their trials and tribulations, understanding that there are skirmishes, that there are wars occurring in regards to many other different stars upon this galaxy. And there are those that are also at peace. And so it is, shall we say, a mixed bag in regards to variations of how one is able to expand their consciousness by moving past polarity to where some of these particular races are still heavily involved deeply within polarity.
Yeah.
yes. So, when I had a body, when I go back to the destruction of Eden, how was this actually gone?
Lyra itself was, shall we say, created through the idea of its demise based upon internal conflict. It represented the idea of duality in the forms of many different sub-races that were procreated originally from the one, that then, shall we say, worked together with different aspects of polarity, that then led to its demise. It was an internal combustion relating to the idea of conflict that resulted in the end of that particular planet and that particular star system. Now understand that many, shall we say, faculties of groups together were responsible. It's not that one particular group was responsible and all the blame was thrown on them, although that can, shall we say, in distortion be roughly translated. So, if you feel that you were a part of a group in regards to that time of conflict, absolutely, but you weren't the only one.
So,
did they operate with different bodies? Absolutely. Much larger to that degree. Much more of, shall we say, ranging, shall we say, there are many different types that related to, shall we say, the connection of a very pale blue or a pale white, or shall we say, very similar to the particular color of what you would know as your native Indians, in that way. There are many different subgroups that were responsible that were all seeded from the original race. And that is what truly brewed together its conflict in regards to the destruction of Lyra. Through a multiple group, shall we say, entanglement.
Like visualizing of a power of mind, you can say, or visualizing the destruction, or with weapon. Is this done with a weapon, or is this done with the intention of spirit?
Done with weapons. These were done with technology.
Such as?
Such as what you would consider to be weapons of, shall we say, planetary destruction. That were literally built in regards to war, to literally annihilate particular, shall we say, continents upon the planet.
And was I involved in this idea? The idea itself.
Particular crystalline weapons that were utilized to harness the power of crystals in that way for the energy that was stored within the crystalline devices to create internal, shall we say, destruction within the planet. That then led to the destruction of the entire star system, of the star itself. What caused this was the ability of duality, superiority, the feeling that those who wanted to conquer needed to annihilate their enemies. And there were those who were attempting to oppose against them, to attempt to destroy them, to attempt to save the planet. But in that sense, it all ended up as the same in regards to the internal destruction of the planet, of, shall we say, adjointed planets, and in regards to the star itself. That this literally happened within what you would know as billions upon billions of years ago.
Yes. Yes, no, I'm referring
but you need to learn that through, shall we say, a large degree of lives that followed afterwards. You literally needed to go to different planets to understand particular themes that assisted in your growth of working alongside the universe rather than against it. There holds, again, many different lives that represent, shall we say, lives within Reticuli, lives within Orion, lives within the Pleiades, etc., that allowed you to go through these different experiences, moving into Sirius, understanding more of the empowerment factor that related to you working alongside with the universe rather than against it, feeling that you no longer held the urge for dominion, you were surrendering to the surface of being part of the universe in divinity. And it was through this particular point of, shall we say, a grand time of evolution that then allowed you to come to Earth to be of service in this way, from higher densities, shall we say, to literally filter yourself through the apertures, through the vortexes, in regards to physicalized reality, to come upon Earth in the fourth density, as it was at that time, to assist in this way. To assist in the upliftment of Earth, because you knew of her cosmic cyclic plan. that she would be going through much turmoil within the times ahead, and that you wanted to be part in regards to this grand experiment. That it was literally a synopsis, a summary in regards to everything that you have been through, in regards to destruction, in regards to manipulation, in regards to aggression and fear, to literally birth yourself through all of that, to return to the harmony that you naturally are in spirit, divinity itself.
So I'm realizing now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's taken many lifetimes. But that's okay. That's all right. It's a chain effect. The beginning of the chain may feel that it may, shall we say, start off in a very dense way. But as the chain continues to spiral all the way up to the other end, this represents the idea of understanding your own divinity, to everything that you know you had to become, in order to become more of that, to go beyond that which represents limitation through the ideas of fear.